should recognize that we have been crucified with Christ. And if we really love him, we will represent him by no longer living in the flesh. We will let Christ live in us. The life we now live in the body, instead of pleasing ourselves, we would live by faith in the Son of God who loved us and gave himself for us. We should not set aside the grace of God like unbelievers do, because doing that will show that we missed the memo. Just like the Pharisees and Sadducees who missed their opportunity to embrace God in the flesh while he was living yet among them. So if we choose to repeat the cycle, it will ultimately mean that we have learned nothing in 3 millenniums. Here are some quick facts about our evolution. The first millennium started in year 1 of Anno Domini, which is the Latin briefing for the year of the Lord. If you want to be sure, go ahead and Google right now. Try the Spirit by the Spirit and see if it be of God. In the Bible, the first millennium is probably from Genesis to possibly Acts, because Acts is the last place where we see Jesus on earth into Revelation. The second millennium, a 1,000-year period, started 1,001 years after the death of Christ. The third millennium began in 2001 on January 1st, which was a Monday. Bill Clinton was president. Destiny Child was actually releasing their part 1 of Independent Woman. It was being heard all over the U.S. Miami beat Florida in the Sugar Bowl.
Don't you do it!
And Oklahoma beat Florida State in the Orange Bowl.
Don't do it!
It was also the same day that the New York Post hit their bicentennial year of publishing.
Come on, man.
And I guarantee you that there were plenty of people wanting a piece of that pie. But I'm also sure that not as many people with their hands out put in the necessary work to receive the accreditation. So just as the New York Post, we need to realize that we can't get any form of reward until we honor grace over the law. Because if righteousness comes through the law, then Christ would have died for nothing, which is not the case, because righteousness comes through his grace, his mercy, and the ability to follow him in the realm of the Spirit. He wants to reward those who diligently seek them. He wants to reward those who can withstand the test of time. But some people get it twisted. Take Zebedee's baby mama, for example. We talked about this before. She walked up to Jesus and asked for her 2 boys to be given access to sit on the thrones next to glory. But what had they done to receive that treatment at that time? Nothing. Jesus told her she didn't realize what she was asking him to do. It was even out of his hands, because God had already promised the disciples their seats in heaven. They were going to get their crown and sit on their rightful thrones because they took up their crosses and followed the will until the end. Through hell, high water, with pressures rising, with tongues lying, with attacks upon their lives, with traps all around them, with strung out people around them, with conniving people around them, with unloyal people around them, with backstabbers trying to get close to them, with false prophets prophesying on them, with corrupt family members keeping up trouble, with the city council plotting against them behind their backs, with the government looking over their shoulders, with tax seasons coming and going, with produce falling and rising, with the fluctuations of currency causing discord. The disciples yet still remain faithful to finish the work God gave them, without compromising to the tempter of sin who wanted them to give up their cross and walk the other way. So I'm here to tell that father, that mother, that son, that daughter, that sister, that brother, that cousin, that niece, that nephew, that grandchild, that you're going through what you're going through because God built you to have dominion over it. But the only way you can conquer it is not to go over it, not to go around it, not to go above or beneath it. Church, you've got to go through it. Paul knows this, and when he sees Timothy becoming stressed out in the faith, he reaches out to encourage and uplift his fellow man in Christ Jesus. In 2 Timothy 2:1, Paul is speaking to Timothy, who was in Ephesus, because there were leaders in the Ephesian church who were teaching false doctrines. They were distorting the truth by misapplying certain Jewish practices, they were borrowing wicked philosophies. tolerating sinful acts, restricting certain foods, abolishing marriage, and keeping it up. All of the controversial lies as if it were the way of the truth of life. So Paul sent Timothy with a letter that would hopefully deliver them from their greed and ultimately set things straight in Ephesus. But in reality, we know things didn't go as expected. Paul was jailed after warning Alexander and Hymenaeus to step down from leadership. And they continued to mislead people into the corruption of arguing and disharmony, which made Timothy discouraged and intimidated, which is why Paul wrote, "Thou therefore, my son, be strong in the grace that is in Christ Jesus. And the things that thou hast heard of me among many witnesses, tell the same thing to faithful men, who shall be able to teach others also." Paul reminds Timothy that remembering the gospel of how Jesus rose and the sacred writings he was told as a child are God-given revelations that will help him further his work in Christ. So that means that all of us should not despise the day of small beginnings. Remember where you came from. Remember the struggle so you can help somebody else with the struggle. Stop looking down on people when they're not where you are. See, we got people who sit up and talk about New Mount Zion because of what they think is going on. But what they don't understand is that we're struggling just like they are. We're holding things down just like they are. But just because they don't like that their opportunity is cut short, that they cut themselves out of what God had given them. They want to run their mouth and they want to talk about who we are. They want to talk about the church in a whole, not just New Mount Zion. Zion represents everybody of Christ, whether it's Kojic, whether it's Baptist, whether it's Pentecostal, whether it's Apostolic, it represents the body. And what we have to do as a body is stop talking about people. We got to stop putting people down. If anybody puts people down more than anybody, it's us. You can look in other dimensions, not necessarily the church. People who are famous in music, people who are famous doing movies and acting, they can come together no matter the difference. But when people walk through these doors, for some reason, there's a certain level of tension that they just can't seem to get away from. And it's only because we refuse to submit to the will of God. For no man or woman that warrant for God has time to entangle themselves with the affairs of this life. Paul also reminds Timothy, as I'm reminding you, Zion, that there will be lots of trouble within your region while you are yet shifting weight around. But endure hardness as a good soldier of Jesus Christ, because they who are looking at you and thinking that you're going to fall are getting ready to see you rise. I'm going to say that again. The people that have been counting you out, the people that have been saying you're nothing, the people that have been saying you won't return are getting ready to see the cream of the crop rise. And it's because we have a charge to keep and a God to glorify. We have to stop worrying about the troubles of this world, or it will keep us from pleasing the one that chose us. We need to cast our cares onto him, and we can watch things change. But if you hold on to it, watch everything stay the same. For a man who strives after mastery, he will not receive his crown unless he endures. For the race is not given to the swift, nor to the strong, but to he that endures will be given the crown of life. So I charge you to put on the whole armor of God so you can be steadfast, unmovable, always abounding, and standing firm in the work of the Lord. Listen, church, I need your help right here. Every time you hear me say for his name's sake, I want you to say, so get ready for sake. So get ready for it. All right, let's finish this out and break every cycle that's not destroyed. You will be hated for his name's sake. You will be ridiculed for his name's sake. You will be lied on for his name's sake. You will flee evil for his name's sake. You will witness false teachers for his name's sake. You will hear godless chatter for his name's sake. You will avoid arguments for his name's sake. You will be kind for his name's sake. You will lay hands on the sick for his name's sake. You will recover the people who are sick for his name's sake.